Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
and Rohith door.
And we're back. After a hiatus, we are back talking about Invincible. Blood spatter, cracking. Always something happening whenever you say that name. We're back. Episode 5 out of 8 for season 2. Again, already confirmed for season 3. Most likely going to, I'd imagine, probably 5 to 6 seasons at a minimum. But yeah, we're back. A lot has happened. Everyone and their mother's been very hyped. Everyone, their Debbie Grayson has been very hyped for more Invincible and where it's going to go after the kind of the mid-season cliffhanger. And yeah, it's been a lot of people. You see, Invincible is like this thing where so ridiculously good. We were spoiled on the first season, and we just want the whole thing. And it was this thing of like, hey, you want more Invincible? We're going to give you more Invincible, but we need time to make the show. We didn't know it was going to go. It was going to go this well, so we need time to make the show. Which again is why it's being broken up, and we're having these kind of siestas between batches of episodes. But end result, quality show, quality storytelling, and that is what we're here to discuss. Episode 5. So, Rohit, this must come as a shock. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I think this episode was just like so much happened in this episode in terms of character moments, in terms of moving the plot along, reveals, and all that stuff. It's just like, oh my god, like Invincible came back with a vengeance. And I mean, just to get outside, just discussing the episode and more about like and the show as a whole. I don't know about you. There wasn't really much. If I feel like for me, Amazon didn't really do much advertising and marketing of the show beyond just that trailer, or like people are announcing that like, hey, Invincible's coming back. And I remember that when the show was going to come back, but it didn't really register to me until I saw like, oh, Invincible's coming back, and like in discussions online, it's like, oh, I gotta get back into it. And I wonder if maybe I'd be curious what the numbers are. I mean, honestly, the show is great as it is, but the way that the season came out and split into two with 4 episodes last year and 4 episodes this year, I wonder if there's a bit of a momentum break or a diminishment in like kind of sort of the hype or engagement because there is that kind of gap. If maybe Amazon should have waited for all 8 episodes to be ready and then just do the typical 3 episodes the first week and then each episode weekly and then build up and really kind of had a more sustained, engagement and attention from the general audience.
It does really feel like that. It does feel it's so weird how this works. Where obviously everyone is talking about Invincible when it goes on break. The mid-season finale, everyone's talking about it, and then everyone's hyped for it coming back, and the announcement of like, hey, it's coming back on. We have a release date for when the episodes are going to start dropping it. Everyone's hyped, and yet episode premieres. I don't think to much ceremony, but after the episode premieres, people are talking about people. I think it's building up again, but it's so weird how that works, where everyone is dying for more Invincible. Yet it just kind of Invincible happened. It seemed to just come back without ceremony, despite all the build up and all the hype.
Yeah, I wonder if much of that is because Amazon like has like the boys and like the boys spin up Gen V kind of taking up a lot of the attention and focus because those are shows that like
Yeah, but they're kind of like dead in the water right now as well. They're just kind of like in terms of like they're waiting for the boys to come back to keep things on. You'd imagine that they would divert all that to Invincible to tide people over. Then when Invincible goes away, we'd go back to the boys.
yeah, I am. It is kind of interesting. I don't know. I think part of it maybe is that Amazon just would have had typically like other shows that kind of go along and keep people interested in their service, but maybe with what happened last year with the writers and actors strike, that kind of just like messed with sort of their release strategy. Um, I mean, I don't know much about Amazon programming to really opine either way, but I
I know
wouldn't.
one thing. I hate that we have ads now on Amazon, but
I do not have ads. I guess that's reflective of of the value of those $3.
Yeah, yeah, high paying lawyer, I get it.
True, but but I think going to sort of the meat of this episode, what I really appreciated was sort of the necessity on Mark's part to take his brother back, because I feel like for people that may not be yeah, no, I get you, Jacob, in terms of ads, but I with how the alien civilization of the God, what is the name of the alien
Well, I
civilization?
know that is the planet called Thraxon,
Yeah,
or
or
the thing is, I know it's Thraxon,
Thraxons are
or
the
I
people.
forget that's the name of the people, or if that's the planet.
Yeah, the people, the Thraxons, they
Yeah.
have very short lives because they're now just to bugs, and with uh with Mark's like half brother being a mix of Thraxon and Voltramite, he just ages differently from his people, but because of that, he won't really have a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that he was bring his brother to Earth and then have basically Debbie kind of take care of this little kid really speaks a lot to sort of how much he's different from not just only his father but the like evil invincibles that we've seen at the beginning of season 2. And I think this is going to be something that is going to play a part. Actually, I I mean, I assume you read the comics, so you probably have more inside knowledge on this, but I would not put it past this show to maybe utilize Marx's half brother as a means of defining or delineating his journey from the other evil invincibles throughout the multiverse.
It would be an interesting direction to take, which coincidentally, since you bring that up, mind you, I've not seen part two yet because it hasn't come out yet. But the Crisis, the Justice League, Crisis on Infinite Earths movie, the three-part trilogy that they're doing, that kind of round out the Tomorrowverse.
Yes.
There is a bit in that movie where we really interestingly explore. Again, we had very much kind of a new Batman. Well, not a new Batman. We had like kind of like a an early years, the Long Halloween Batman with Jensen Ackles, kind of as the Batman of that Tomorrowverse, which I love that choice still. And we had a moment with a Robin in Crisis where we kind of acknowledged that things could have gone very differently. And with all the multiverses, we kind of explore like a Batman who takes in Robins, and maybe a Batman who does not take in Robins, and maybe a Batman who sires children with Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah.
Oh man.
Anyway, so yeah, so Mark, I guess breaking down the episode now. So Mark has helped the Thraxons rebuild for about 2 months or so. It's a lot longer than than he initially thought. I don't remember what the estimation was for his trip because I think it was supposed to be maybe 2 weeks. It ended up being 2 months. I think that's what initially happened there. But yeah, so Andressa, played by the wonderful Ray Seahorn from Better Call Saul, of course. She's rapidly aged. She's in her golden years now, and she won't. She knows she won't see her son or Nolan again, and it's again Ray Seahorn doing some really fine acting.
Mm-hmm.
And so Mark is tasked with raising his little brother, and Debbie. Well, Debbie's not happy about it, but she sees the burden on poor Mark. And again, my heart goes out to this Grayson kid, man. I love Mark Grayson so much, and I love him as a protagonist. I love him just as like he's this kid you kind of root for. There's a lot of Peter Parker charisma there in terms of like it's a regular kid with problems despite this very extraordinary kind of circumstance.
I think with what he went through with his dad at the end of the first season, it's part of his journey is that he's taking on the burden of basically amending and cleaning up for what his dad did to
Like Mark already
himself,
did the right
family, and the
thing.
world. Yeah, like
Like now he's got to do it tenfold now to be because he's in the shadow of his father.
and you really feel for Mark in this because it's like he didn't ask to be the son of an alien who's became the world's greatest superhero.
The alien with a
He,
mustache.
yeah, he didn't ask to, to be the caretaker of a half brother that he didn't know about until he came on the planet. It's basically it's just he's given just choices to which he feels like he's being forced to grow up much faster than he would have normally if he was just like any other kid. Like William, like his issue is just trying to find a boyfriend, and Mark is just trying to like help raise this kid who's going to rapidly age. Um, keep the world protected, and then in the background there's this villain who has seen every version of him throughout the multiverse and is planning his demise.
Yeah, yeah, it's quite the pickle, and I love that again. The wonderful Sandro is as Debbie, and I can't get enough of what Sandra has done in this role for this show. Just the fact that she's, she sees again. We made a big point of the first half of this season to really show the aftermath of what Debbie's been going through, and we really, again, kind of our namesake of the episode, that this must come with a shock. Like again, Debbie's reaction is priceless to this kid and very genuine, very earned. Of like, just like no one's just making everyone's life harder, and what everyone's lives harder, and he can just go off on his merry way. Again, she wasn't there, like seeing him being, like seeing the acorns of redemption in the man. Again, not full on redemption because he did like hold this kid in front of a moving train. Like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man's worst nightmare, but still, he's still, it's the fact that Debbie does this see the burden that's on her son, and she does like, okay, I don't want him to drop out of college to do the right thing here, so I will. I gotta be honest, man. I don't know how Mark's gonna pass college. It
I'm
just seems like
surprised he wasn't like kicked. He wasn't kicked down and stuff was just thrown in the trash or whatever. Um,
yeah.
I'm surprised that like no one reached it. Debbie, and also I kind of feel like Cecil, he's basically the government. He should have covered for Mark as best as he could.
But he told him not to go to space, though, so that's kind of his penance for that, though.
I mean, true, but
It
like,
feels like if he told him like forthright and Cecil was on board, like, okay, yeah, I'll take care. I'll
well,
bribe the
I'm
dean
just
or something.
thinking because the thing is that like eventually if he's gone for a while and like I just think like if ever Marcus are go on a mission, whether Cecil approved or not, someone's gonna notice and have questions. And I feel like Cecil, if he's as paranoid and on top of like 25 like 1,000 contingencies in place to ensure that like nothing bad goes happen or nothing goes out of plan. I feel like there needs to be some assistance, like considering how much Mark is sacrificing. Like I feel like Cecil should kind of do his part, especially since like Invincible is basically the only like line of defense against the Ultramites.
Yeah. Yeah, again, the only thing I can say to that is, again, initially when he's going to space, Cecil doesn't really know about the whole, Viltrumite thing. The Viltrumites are heading to Earth, but then again, you're right. I mean, it'd be a logical conclusion that eventually, they might come back. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I still think it's just him. Like, I wonder though if Cecil may have had a thing where had Mark checked in, he would have smoothed things over the Dean for him. I don't know. Which he
Yeah.
still might. We don't know. He still might. I mean, again, if Mark passes, and that, you know what? That might lead to a plot point. That might lead to a thing where anything Mark accomplishes, again, as kind of anything successful going on in Mark's life, might be by proxy of Cecil and everyone. So it might be to the like lead to an existential crisis of what have I ever accomplished?
Or like, what happens if I just stop being a superhero? I don't want to be a superhero
Yeah,
at a certain age and just have like a regular job and all. Like the thing is, like Mark, since he's gotten his powers, he's just kind of been subsumed in being a superhero. And I feel like this might be something that the comics eventually tackle, but it's just like I don't really have a sense of like what Mark's passions or interests would be outside of being just being a superhero, right? Because like for all the mainline superheroes, like Clark Kent, like for Superman, Batman, and Spider Man, didn't have their powers. They would just be a
Billionaire,
journalist,
reporter.
reporter, and then like a guy who's trying to make ends meet as a photojournalist, but wants to be a scientist ultimately.
Yeah.
And I think for Mark, it's just like, I kind of wonder if maybe he might feel at a certain point that he just doesn't really have an identity outside of being like invincible, and that's something that I kind of would like to see the show explore because
Like I imagine he would want like to help people somehow. I think maybe social work or something. That's a guess.
well,
I don't know how.
it's just more like because I think for example like Eve is she's not just a superhero but she's using her powers to do like because she has kind of basically
It's the best part about that character. She doesn't just want to like punch people. She actually
yeah
wants to
yeah
legitimately help people and save people
and
and
but
like
she has
solve the world's problems.
an intelligence about her that if well I guess because based upon that is special she wouldn't necessarily have like a scientific position because her powers are kind of what gives her this intuitive scientific understanding of atomic structures.
Yeah,
But I think like I just feel like Eve could have a life outside of being a superhero,
absolutely.
and have a sense of fulfillment and purpose about it. Whereas I feel like for Mark, it's like he's been thrust into this role, but then eventually after a while, it's like I feel like there's just a certain point where he has to imagine it's like God, like if I just don't make an active effort to have like a civilian life with Amber, which is being engaged in school and all that stuff, eventually I'd be just forced to like be invincible. And then eventually I can just go back to being Mark Grayson because what is there to being Mark Grayson besides just having a mom and maybe a girlfriend that's like barely hanging on with because she has her own stuff.
Yeah. All right. Let's pivot a little bit here. Let's talk. Cecil and Donald.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Donald. When we left the break, Donald had uncovered that there's something going on. We actually physically, we kind of fully see it this time. That yeah, Donald's mechanical. Donald's got something going on here, and he there's this great bit where he stands up for himself and he says, "I need the room now. Everyone, clear the room." So he stands up for himself and he gets answers from Cecil. He confronts him with it. And basically, we learn they put Donald's brain into a robotic exoskeleton.
Am I understanding this isn't the first time this has happened?
Well, I mean, the way it reads in this episode is it's the first time. Well, no, sorry, not the first time ever that they've done this to somebody. The first time it's happened to Donald.
Okay.
That's at least the way I read it in the episode here. And further down, I believe. Now, again, I haven't really looked in this thoroughly. So this was. I don't know if they did. The discovery was done differently in the comic. I'm pretty sure, but where it's going from here, I can't tell you because again, I read through it once, swearing off of it, so I could be surprised, like I am now. So the robot thing did happen. I don't know if it went down precisely the same way, but
Mm-hmm.
there was like Donald eventually basically having like a cybernetic component to him like this. I love the way we've handled it here. It's very Agents of Shield, very first season Agents of Shield. Now I'm not saying like again to be specific here. See, part of me is just saying I know no one's going to watch Agents of Shield. Just me bringing it up like this. I don't know why I'm worried about spoilers, but let's just say for argument's sake. Season one of Agents of Shield, we are building to a reveal of how the heck did Coulson come back, and there were a lot of theories going around, and yeah, this is kind of like feels a lot like that kind of thing, which we're definitely pulling from a kind of like a whole Coulson thing. Period with Donald. Donald has kind of a Coulson vibe to him from the get go, which is so weird how that works out. We're getting him way before we get Coulson. Period, and now vice
Fellas,
versa.
if you're an average everyman agent working for a super secret spy organization or government organization, and you're having trouble with memory, your boss did something freaky or suspicious with your body,
If you think Tahiti's a magical place, ask some questions.
or go to the National Labor Relations Board.
Yes, unless they too have memory issues in which they've also all been replaced.
Dang. Well, I think what was really interesting was that like, oh, I thought I have white room clearance, and it's like
That was great. I love the white
for
room thing.
most of it, it's like God. It like I mean Cecil obviously like with the Agent Shield comparison, like there's the obvious parallel between Cecil and Nick Fury,
Mhm.
and that level of compartmentalization is just insane. I always kind of wonder for when Kirkman made that character and has Cecil kind of operate with the way he does in the comics. Um, from what do you recall and how the character was handled throughout the comic? Is he taking it into sort of like being very on the nose of a parody or satirical in regards to him being like a next Nick Fury analog, and the show kind of is doing it more dramatic, or is it kind of the other way around, or a bit of both?
Well, I mean, they played it pretty straight. Let me put it to you this way. Again, I don't want to give away too much, at least for the stuff I really do remember. I don't know. Here's the thing. I know it very much feels like we're going in this direction. I don't know if we're going to do it this season or next season, frankly, because, again, we only have well, in this case, 3 episodes left. Let's just say if Cecil were to turn on Mark, it would be pretty intense. So I'm based on that. That was a really good arc in the comic, which very much feels like we're kind of going that direction here, based on the way the show has been. We've had a lot of setup for it, which I've been really excited about. They play them pretty straight. I mean, there's obvious allusions to, again, the organization, so there's a lot of Shield parallels there. But I don't think it was. I mean, just basically the gag that we have here is kind of summarized as like the most like kind of tongue in cheek we've really gone with it. Where he kind of pops up with the teleporter and stuff. Where it's like we've had just like, Cecil, how do you know these things, man? Like that kind of Nick Fury stuff. So. So I mean, Cecil's kind of like a combination of it's kind of a weird combination of like Nick Fury, King Faraday, and maybe a little bit of Jonah Hex because of the scar. A little bit. I mean, honestly, look wise, it's kind of some Jonah Hex in there, but
Yeah, no. I think so. In this episode, um, I like, but for going back to Mark for a bit, um, him coming to see Amber and Will, and just how they've kind of not moved on from Mark, but just how they dealt with like college 2 months in. Man, I really felt for Mark in that instance because like William is just like it's like he's telling, I thought you were gonna cover for me. It's like I
well,
can
yeah,
only
it was
cover
two
for you so
months.
much. And Amber, like, while her boyfriend was away, her granddad died, and it's just like, oh,
That
that's
broke my heart right there. That bit there's oh man, yeah, she's kind of having a rough go of it in college, and I don't blame her.
yeah, and like she failed a sociology test, accounted for like a third of her grade, and it's like, like I'm surprised she even just stayed in school and she just take time off, just
Yeah.
but I think this is interesting. It's kind of interesting, like where how Amber is characterized and how Zazie Beetz is like playing the performance, and it feels like okay, we maybe were a little bit too aggressive on the Amber part. Let's have her just go through some real life shit and just have her just kind of be in this place where she's supportive of her boyfriend, but it's just she's in it, but it feels like not much that she's rewarded for. Which I think at that point, I feel like Mark owes her a like he needs to go above and beyond as a boyfriend because god dang, like
But what more can he do though?
well,
Just tell me what he's there. He's doing nice gestures. He took her to, not he didn't take her to Paris because that would have killed her. But he took her to Vegas.
he needs to call in a favor from Cecil to make a romantic night possible.
But Cecil's always getting in the way of the romantic night, though.
Just he has to make a deal. It's like Cecil, I will fight like 25 alien races. They're about to
You
planet.
can't negotiate with Cecil. You're out of your mind.
Donald will help.
Well, now, but even then, Mitchell's dad's the reason he doesn't have a body anymore. Just a brain.
It wasn't Cecil's fault.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like, why would he help Mark?
Because he's a romantic. He loves a boy falling in love with a girl and keep with a girl. Come on. He may have a metal heart, but he doesn't have a cold heart.
Okay. Anyway. Okay. I think just to get things a little. Speaking of Cecil, the confrontation with Cecil. Again, this is what I'm talking about. There's a big scene here, which is a big setup. I love everything about this scene. I love how, of course, Cecil does a little pop in as he tends to do, and he says like, "Hey, so you come back? You don't think to check in with me, or you're seeing your girlfriend, your mom, and everything?"
Well, and I love Mark's response. Like, well, you keeping an eye on me. I figure you would know if I'm back.
Yes, I
I
love that. Mark is making very solid. He stands firm here.
No,
He's
I appreciate Mark giving a little bit of lip to Cecil because I think Mark was down the dumps because of what happened last season. And I think Cecil, while he may care for Mark, he's not above manipulating and or taking advantage of someone's guilt and hangups for his own advantage. And I appreciate Mark coming back, is able to kind of set a firm boundary as well as his mom does. And really make it clear that, like, look, I'm going to be a superhero and take care of people, but I'm not, like, he didn't say it to him, but it's like he's not Cecil's lapdog. And I think that's a really good, I think, with what he experienced with Thraxa, with what he saw, is I really think because of him seeing or bearing witness or having an understanding of what his dad did for the Thraxan people, kind of not minimized, but it helped put his guilt in a sense of catharsis. Because now when he comes back, he doesn't have the guilt as like, oh, my dad was a monster and I had to make amends for it. If he saw the fact that his dad is able to make some changes, not to say that he's fully absolved of what happened.
he saw some good in his father
Yeah,
that wasn't like part of like a whole like infiltration mission thing.
yeah, and I think with the fact that, like, he has a kid, and it's like, I think for him, I think Mark mentally, and this is not just expressed, but I think I'm pretty sure on a writing and on a voice acting level on CBU's part, he really did a great job in this episode of conveying this kind of subtle transformation of Mark being a young guy, of Mark being a young kid to being a young adult, and having a sense of responsibility, having a sense of putting in boundaries among other adults. Because in the last season, like, to his dad, to his mom, to like Cecil, he had like a parental child or deferential authority, you know, dynamic with a lot of the adults in his life. But this season, now that he's graduated college and just mentally what he's gone through so far, he is in a place to where he can, stand firm, and not because he's being bratty, but because he's an adult who has feelings and his own perspective. And I really appreciate that Cecil, like, begrudgingly has to acquiesce to Mark's, demands and desires. And I think the fact that Mark is reinforced by Debbie, and now and because of how Cecil feels about Debbie, how she's been betrayed, Cecil has to, as a not as a bureaucrat, but as like a human being, has to really be there for Invincible, rather than Invincible having to be there for Cecil and his interests. So I really appreciate that little bit.
I just love the ambiguity of Cecil, at least the way Walton Goggins performs it and the way we depict it here. It really does feel like there is an inkling of like of genuine like care for this kid. He does care for Mark. There's a little respect there because I mean Mark, as we've been kind of going over, he did go through a lot last season. I mean Cecil, even when he unleashed like the ultimate contingency, which was essentially was the kaiju, you
Mm-hmm.
know, he regretted that Mark was innocent because he was like, well, it's going to probably kill them both, and I hate that it's come to that. But I think he, as much as he likes that kid, much as he ultimately respects that kid, he will turn on him if it's for the greater good.
Yeah, and I feel like it's
And now it questions all the good things that he does. It casts him in a shadow when Mark knows this, which he kind of does, and we kind of are building this in the background. He is this whole season, he's been, I mean, he's been building contingencies. Two major ones being again, the Kraken sound, that's the
Mhm.
biggie. And
Yeah.
right now, seemingly the brother.
Yeah, no, and I think for Cecil, it's like he's not I think the way he's sort of an analog to say the likes of Nick Fury and Amanda Waller, like, very often the trope in superhero fiction when there's a government bureaucrat or like a person in a suit that's heading a secret organization that aids or is involved with superhero stuff, like, they're often just very in the shadows, ambiguous, like vaguely threatening. Um, and for Cecil, I mean, I'm just judging for what is in the show. Like, Cecil does come off as a guy who had to climb up the ranks and, you know, prove his service and do his part. And he has to make tough decisions, but it's not like they're oftentimes for certain government bureaucrats and super stuff, they're just like they're making decisions because they're the government, we do as I say, whatever. And it's like Cecil
He's
with
getting
what
his hands dirty. He's
yeah,
like, this is the stuff that needs to be done.
yeah, and he doesn't take any joy. He doesn't feel he's not like he's dismissive of like what you're talking about. He's more just like I understand where you're coming from, but you have to understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from, there's more at stake. And and at certain times, like when he's like, I remember specifically the moment that always stands out to me when I think of Cecil as a character is like where everything in the Guardians of the Globe headquarters is clean except just of one blood splatter.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells us like, "Oh, you missed a spot." It's like I kept it there just so that you think you're hot shit, just to look at that to know like how like moral you are. And
that is a great moment.
And I think that really speaks to like Cecil as a character. Like even though he has this immense power, access resources, he's ultimately a mortal man in a world filled with like superheroes, aliens.
It's not about the amazing, fantastical things Cecil can do. It's about the little achievable things he can do.
Yeah, and I think there is a sense of like mortality. There's a sense of like, okay, I can only do so much, and I have to max out the most I can give, sort of like in a Batman kind of a sense. And I feel like there is. I think if you were to had this story Invincible told through the perspective of Cecil, you really kind of would have a feeling for how Cecil is just like. I feel kind of trapped in this role because I can't imagine any person that's in Cecil's role that would do anything differently from him, right? Because especially it's like he has to be answerable to the president of the United States, and this makes sense. He has to be answerable to the globe, right? The international community.
There's an interesting parallel to Cecil and Nolan when you really think about it, because they were kind of friends, but by the same token, it was a thing where he never. Nolan was like a constant where he didn't have a contingency for Nolan initially. From everything that live this way, all of his contingencies were very much like kind of spur of the moment contingencies. It felt like when that finale happened, because it felt like it was like an example of Cecil being optimistic about heroes, kind of. But I guess what I'm getting is that when we reveal everything we reveal about Nolan, and you look at these two characters in comparison with each other, it's the fact that they see the world in kind of a similar way in terms of just very tactically. They see it very tactically. Only Cecil, again, he's not. Cecil's playing by the rules. Nolan isn't playing by the rules. That's kind of like the main distinction there. Well, even then, I mean, Nolan is following like the Viltrum way, but again, that's more of just like this ideology where Cecil has bosses and he's playing by the rules, but he's very no nonsense the way Nolan is. So there's like it's interesting to see those characters bump up against each other. One who can do everything, one who physically can't do anything to the other guy.
Yeah, but the thing is that in terms of having a tactical view of the
like power in a different sense,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like Cecil is a guy who has power that's cautious of the extent of that power and has to be like almost surgical in the use of it.
Mm-hmm.
And because I think ultimately Cecil, like for him being kind of the stand-in for the U.S. government and whatever commentary you could have of like the U.S. government, government bureaucrats, all that stuff, is that it often feels like for especially the moment that really clarified sort of Cecil's humanity was that like when he's doing the teleportation interaction with Nolan, he once he pops up, it's like, oh god, my balls were up to my throat. You had me there. Like it's showing a little vulnerability there, and I feel like Cecil's the guy that like will try to put a front face, but he does sweat. He does he does feel nervous, and I think also Cecil feels like a guy that like for all the tough decisions he has to make, like the people that are impacted by such tough decision, he doesn't dehumanize in the process.
No.
And that's what makes him such an interesting character, is that for the tough decisions that lead to death or suffering or whatnot, he sees the humanity in those who are impacted by decisions. Whereas Nolan, for most of the first season, without until like Mark had to say his thing and he had that flashback to his childhood, Nolan is just very much a brainwashed servant of the Viltrumite Empire, like an imperialistic alien force. And the fact that like Nolan even kind of had his like maybe not like full redemption, but just had an epiphany to value other beings without any immediate benefit to him. It's sort of interesting where for both Nolan and Cecil, they're both servants or soldiers to like an ideological cause. But I think Cecil is more likely to waver and have a certain set of internal principles. Whereas with Nolan, like he had to have sort of a personal connection with his son, Mark, being sort of near death to really kind of make a chink in his armor. And I think from there, Nolan's had to take a long journey to like really reevaluate and kind of at this point disavow his ideology. Whereas Cecil, I think from the start, even though he's up in the system of power and influence of being the U.S. government and being connected to superheroes, he has sort of a grounding of being human, of having his own set that I think comes out in certain moments. And I'm really curious to see how that develops, especially with with what's happening with the overall multiverse plot and just any other future plots to happen in future seasons.
So, just what to round out that encounter there. So, Mark, he calls Cecil out on the whole surveillance thing, which again is like the lack of a need to check in, which he kind of has him there. But then Cecil's like, all right, fine, well, then we're going to collect your brother, and then so Mark stands firm on the whole brother thing. This is an interesting dilemma here, where Cecil's not wrong about the needs of this boy, but you have to question, again, Cecil's contingencies for good reason. Now, there is a distrust. Mark, it's kind of like it very much feels like this kind of like almost like a telltale game kind of situation here. Like all these. If you look at Mark's actions and his interactions with Cecil all this season, and basically since what happened at the end of last season, it's a question of like going the path that we're going down, all these little moments, these little interactions with Cecil. Like he's gathering materials for contingencies, like with the Kraken sound and everything. Cecil ultimately he does like this kid, but and he sees the efforts. He sees the effort that it is making. But again, let me put it this way. I love the moment in the scene where you see this moment where Marky he's crunching his fist, he's getting angry, and he has a moment where he could very much be like his father, like in season one, where very much he's gonna he's gonna stand up to Cecil and basically said, "No, you're not gonna do this." Where he does that, and then he says, "I'll check in tomorrow." So that acquiescence right there, I think that reminds Cecil. It gives him a twinge of like, okay, he's not his father. I'll give him some rope here. He'll see my way is going to ultimately be the right one, because it just is impossible. He's not going to be able to raise this kid on his own with his
Mhm.
mother. And that's the thing. Where also you got to wonder down the line though. Again, are Cecil's actions, going to lead to kind of a schism, or is it going to be just like, I guess, like, are Cecil's actions in these little telltale moments going to lead to like Mark kind of igniting this schism of like turn against him, and then Cecil's going to have to pull out the contingency, or is it going to be like warranted in this whole multiverse thing, as you're saying? You know, that might be the kicker. That might be the thing to put in perspective that okay, I'm going to do this, but it may not be warranted.
See, I think in regards to the multiverse thing, it's like when Cecil is made aware of that. I mean, not only is it going to be great importance of having Mark's half brother being contingency, but I think considering like on a human level, it's like if you know how bad Mark can be, like I would feel like Cecil would have some level of concern for the well being of Mark's half brother and also Debbie. Like, if considering how far Mark goes in those other universes, you can't trust that Mark would spare his like immediate family. So while like there is an element of like the younger brother, the half brother can be a contingency against Mark, but it's also like you know considering how Cecil felt for Debbie in terms of her like understanding of Nolan's betrayal of her, I think there is a part of him that also is concerned for like not like Mark's family. I it wouldn't be surprised if maybe I don't know if he might intervene, but considering if he depending on how he sees Mark's actions, if he's worried about him going like fully bad down the line, like there's also maybe concerns about like Amber William, like there's Like I think that's the thing. Like for Cecil, for as much as like he is like the guy in the shadows with the white rooms, all that stuff. Like ultimately, there is a sense of like care and respect that he has for.
But never have I had a moment where I don't believe that Cecil doesn't care about like casualties in this. You know.
No, like he is a guy that would go to every like for every person that's fallen under his uh under his leadership. He's willing to go and be the kind of deliver bad news and take responsibility and accountability. Whereas for I say for other government bureaucrats, they're often characterized as people that use sort of the
They
principle of
write it off as greater good.
yeah, and they're just really power hungry individuals, and that's sort of the commentary that's made in those kind of characters. But I think for Cecil, it's like he's a really three-dimensional being that has this kind of paranoia and like the security apparatus to use and maybe misabuse, but it doesn't come from this kind of like, oh, he's just this like power hungry, craven guy that is as much of a threat to the world as he thinks this as the superheroes he's worried about being. Um, I think that's kind of he's less like he's more like if Commissioner Gordon mixed with Nick Fury put in
Yeah,
a good position.
sure. All right. Let's see. So the Sequids. So the Sequids from Mars attacks. This is something we kind of we set up in the first. I wasn't really sure where they were going with the setup in the first season, but now we finally have our payoff here. So apparently the Sequids very much it's Starro mixed with the symbiotes. Essentially, is kind of what the whole deal here is, and we kind of everyone, but apparently everyone but Black Samson knew that Shapesmith was a selfish Martian, which is funny to me. I love that Black Sam's like the last one to figure it out.
He thought he was just a weird white guy.
Yeah.
I appreciate like how when Shea Smith tells his story about how he came to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like so you knocked out an American astronaut. And was like, no, I thought he. I just hope I think my people was gonna grab him before the alien the
He's
shellac.
just such a bad person, Shapesmith.
I don't think she's just a bad person.
No, no, I don't mean he's like evil. I just mean he's just soft. He's very selfish and stupid.
Yeah, man. Oh god, it. If
And
you ever
I
want
got
to,
to admit, again, it does. It's so funny. I just love that. This has no bearing on the episode, really, but just I find it endlessly entertaining and kind of somewhat vindicating, at least in this very specific context, that this Ben Schwartz character is disliked by everyone.
God, I just feel like God Dragon. Why are you gonna be such a Ben Schwartz hater?
But again, it's like just so many. He plays so many unlikable roles for me. That's the thing. It's nothing personal.
Man, do you not like Ben
I,
Schwartz as
I
much
don't
as
like Ben Schwartz characters.
man? What you and Tiki doesn't like what I think Tiki doesn't like. I don't know. Tiki just
Well,
doesn't
think he
like Rex
doesn't like a
Floyd or Jason
lot.
Manzuka's characters.
Doesn't like what?
Jason Manzuka's characters. The
Oh,
voice actor who voices Rex Floyd. Because I
right,
remember
right.
no, but I think what was really funny was that like for Shake Smith, it's like, oh, like as they're going into the spaceship, it's like, oh, the Martian, we have advanced technology that will recognize it. It's like you didn't think to tell it before we get on the spacecraft and just flew off, that we could have some other plan. But I do appreciate, Eve being on there and doing like a Green Lantern bubble sort of a deal.
Uh-huh.
And the fact is like, oh,
I can't hold this for 10 minutes. We gotta
yeah,
come up with a better solution.
this is like a Green Lantern where it's like
No,
Power
there's
Rings.
air in a balloon, and then plus it's cracking. You also have like the physical exertion. There's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Just a bit of diversion. It was nice seeing. I think for people, if they hadn't seen the Adam Eve special, I feel like that little like frame of her family is like a moment that just feels quote unquote out of place. They haven't watched it.
I love that little
Oh,
frame.
I love that too, and I also want to say Rex Float.
This is a big episode for Rex. Rex gets
Yeah,
really good this episode.
yeah, and I feel like I wish Tiki was with us because I
I
was like,
know.
yeah, because I remember Tiki was like, "Oh, I don't like Rex. He's such an asshole." And I think for me, it's like I don't know. Maybe I just don't
See, I
mind.
knew they were gonna. No, I'm not saying I knew this from the comic. I'm saying I knew based on the show, we had to be building something like this somewhere down the line.
No, and I think it's for me. It's like I don't know if part of it's just I don't mind characters that are abrasive, or if I find characters that are quote unquote assholes or abrasive people entertaining because they're always, especially in an ensemble setting, you kind of need someone that like pushes the envelope a bit. And I think for Rex Splode in this, it's like for Rex, just a short. I really appreciated his moments of being just like down to earth. Um, I'll if I read the comics, I'll get that. I think for me, I don't have an issue with assholes because he Rex is Rex, and I think for what he did in this episode, I really appreciated him kind of like being there for Eve, and also like just the fact that he isn't just automatically just like talking shit about anyone or anything. It's like he when things had to be serious, like Rex is going to be serious about it for the most part. Um, and I really appreciated Rex kind of like mentioning about, oh, that couple you saved, they're gonna do fine, and they did fine because of you. And I think Rex being the one to put things in perspective is really interesting because
Do you think they should have died though?
what?
The couple that she pulled out of the car. I mean, do you think that does that rob us of consequence, or is that a good call that they survived? Because I mean, I was hoping they would survive, but it did feel like, man, they're not going to survive. And that Eve is going to
No,
kill them.
I think
They left it ambiguous what was going on with that couple until
no,
this moment.
I think they needed to survive because if they died, then I think that would just put Eve at a very like um really tough place to where she doesn't feel like she's doing much better for the world with her powers. And I think Rex putting it into perspective is like you just have to save more people than you hurt, and like look at the math. And I think it's interesting for Rex to say that because you wouldn't think that Rex would think much of like the wider consequences of being superior is, but I think with that perspective, it kind of leads to like for Rex being Rex, quote unquote, like is it just that he's just being an asshole, or he's just kind of realized sort of the in his mind whatever lives he saves, like he saves a lot more people in the he saves more than he like hurts or does, and doesn't have that kind of like that pretense or that desire to always have to be serious and stoic and all that stuff. And whereas the other heroes may not just, if anything, maybe Rex is, as a character is just a little bit more less myopic in terms of like how much of an effect they're having. So I think for the other heroes, they seem to always just like take it personally each life that they save and each life that they lost. Whereas Rex, for a character who may come off as like an idiot or like a moron, he has much more of a wider picture of what it means of the impact of a superhero than necessarily the more accomplished or more like likable superheroes.
Yeah, well, I'm going to put a pin in the Rex stuff because I think we should maybe build the Rex a little bit. Unless you want us to talk about all the Rex stuff like now, and then we'll get to the Sequids.
Oh, we can build to that.
Okay, let's say so. Yes, so the Sequids, like, or we by the skin of our teeth we make it inside the Mars, the Mars warship, and I love the logic of, okay, we're putting all the heroes who can't be controlled by the Sequids, and Eve's like wearing the spacesuit and everything, and this ideally already right on there, everyone just, even the Martians, they realize, okay, Shapesmith, he's one of ours, he's the reason for all this, and he brought humans here, or at least seemingly humans, and we're doomed. And then Bulletproof, who, by the way, if Bulletproof is who I think it is, and I'm very certain it is, I'm pretty sure it is. We got to develop that guy. I'm imagining season 3 probably when we're really going to develop that guy, or at some point in the future we got to develop that guy. Otherwise, like I just love we kind of play him as like he's the idiot who like smashed the one Sequid, and now we're all doomed.
Or is it just based upon his voice actor, or what do you know of that
Well, no,
character?
I mean, I don't know if I want to get. Okay, I'll put it this way. Here's what we do know. We can kind of see visually with him. There's kind of a setup. Okay, if you notice, it's kind of a gag. He is wearing the prototype Invincible suit that Art tried to unload onto him. Like he was, remember, it's like that was his suit looked a lot like Invincible's, and his whole name Bulletproof and everything. This guy's kind of a knockoff of Invincible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just there's a thing where, let's just say, if he's the character I'm thinking, which I'm pretty sure he is, given his design, everything, the fact that he's starting off in that suit, I think he and Invincible might go on a journey together.
Interesting. I
like
think I
character
know. I
wise.
think I don't know where you're getting at, but
Yeah,
yeah, no. It is kind of interesting that he's the one that like smashes the one symbiotic creature, and then that leads to their presence. It's like, oh, I guess he's bulletproof, but not idiot proof.
yep. So then, anyway, so we have this whole. So the idea, like, there's like one human on board, and they bond to humans. So there's like one human who's now attacking. We have essentially two to if Mazagro. I wonder if Conspiro period is immune to it, even in her human form, or if that's like if she's also vulnerable. Because we have at least three other people who can be taken control of by these things when they swarm, and then Eve, her suit breaks, and yeah, they're I love the cliffhanger nature of that, by the way. Makes me wish we got the episodes all up front, mind you, but I did appreciate like such a desperate situation. Like the barrier breaks, everyone's exposed, and the giant sea of these symbiotic starfish esque creatures are about to attack them.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I think we're going to transition
Mm-hmm.
to what's happening on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
We have basically the analog
This was such a good payoff.
to the Serpent Society take over like a military base with access
Yeah.
to their codes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, now we're finally playing on this plot point, and it's like, okay, we have duplicate, shrinking ray, and
Rex.
Rex, and there's like, okay, they're doing a pretty good job. Shrinking ray is like gnarly with what she does.
Good. Yes, and also Grey Delisles, or well, Grey Griffin doing the voice.
Yeah,
Just want
yeah.
to shout her out. She's here and she's Monster Girl. Doing great.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this moment of silence. We gotta give a moment of silence for Jerry the vending machine guy.
Oh yeah,
How
yeah.
didn't you feel bad for poor Jerry?
If he just hadn't, if he just had just go
If he
waited,
hadn't skipped lunch, he would have
yeah,
survived.
or just didn't like pack like a granola bar or something.
Yeah, poor Jerry. Seemed like such a nice guy too. What's that? He felt like he exuded like Andy Griffith show vibes. I don't know. Yes, I feel bad for this Jerry.
Oh man, oh man, I get what you mean, but all right, I'm just gonna call Dan Harmon and just say, hey Dan, just for an episode, just have Ben Schwartz play Jerry.
Stop calling people Rohit.
Fine, I'll text them.
Don't. No phones.
Okay, I'll just email him. Anyway,
No thumbs for you. No thumbs.
I mean, I still have eight fingers left, Dragon.
No, you'll be so ticked off you'll give up.
I can also have I can have a dictaphone and then just like edit it out and boom.
What's a Harvey Korman bird gonna do?
Oh, Ben Schwartz just messaged me. He just says, "Hey, tell my biggest fan, Blue Dragon, that he has tickets to see my one man show at the MGM Resort Center in Vegas. You're down for that, Blue Dragon?"
God. I don't feel
Oh, he just told me that he's gonna play Invincible in a live action movie.
I know I should have picked John Kelling for this podcast.
Man. Anyway, I
he's not
really
he's not a lawyer, but doesn't give me guff.
hey, sometimes the best lawyers will be straight with you. That's why they're straight shooters.
Yeah.
But going back to going back to this episode,
Yeah, so the Lizard League was set up and it was paid off tremendously well because like the Serpent Society, or basically we've seen all sorts of organizations have like snake gimmick, like Cobra from DC. We've seen a lot of, and usually they're gag, but the idea, okay, let's take a group of villains, a gang, or like an or like a kind of a cult, and let's put him in a ridiculous snake costume because we're trying to chase, even Hydra to some extent, but less Hydra's, more the more specific snake gimmicks. Snakes are cool and creepy. Let's just have them look like snakes. Let's see how snake-like they can be. And yeah, the end result is like, okay, usually it's just kind of gag fodder, just it looks cool and maybe a few snake puns along the way. It's about it.
Yeah.
But yes, I love the misdirection. We even call it out. Like these guys weren't supposed to be this tough. And dear God, just playing them straight and violent and actually formidable. Like they face like the in quotes joke villains, and it's actually menacing. Like that was such a good idea. Like good on you, Kirkman.
Yeah, I think part of what makes them menacing is that the heroes they go up against are not like the super powerful, the most powerful heroes in the world, and thus their threat level is just a lot more like heightened.
Yeah,
Like with what happened to freaking like duplicate, like
duplicate.
holy
Yeah,
crap, she
I love the tension that was there because we know how duplicates powers work. We've seen it for a season and a half now. We're okay, and we've even I love that we've kind of assumed duplicate was safe because of the whole like she's in a relationship with the immortal and the whole thing like she's died a whole bunch of times. So again, like the character is not really phased by that sort of thing, but dear God, again, at least one of her needs to survive. And we see those two duplicates just slammed into each other, and just the reaction, like, oh no, not Kate.
they
Plus, Rex used to be in a relationship with her. It's even worse.
look like deformed Siamese twins. God damn.
Yeah.
And Rex losing his hand was like that was hard. That was some hardcore
I
shit.
hate that kind of stuff in terms of like just like that. That's I guess the kids these days would say triggering. I don't know, all the hand and limb removals. Like, ugh, God, and just like the fact that it blows up and it gets bitten off and then it blows up. It's like, oh, it's awful.
My thing, just as a brief aside, the thing for me that kind of like just kind of like gives me the willies is like when like there's like sharp objects close to like or close or no, not even close, like punctures an eye and it's even like ugh.
Ugh.
Oh man,
Yeah,
that
but so Ray, though, shrinking Ray, I think had worst in terms, not worse in terms of like it was poorly executed, but it's like worse in terms. I think the most gruesome thing I've seen so far this season was how he killed Shrinking Ray. So initially, she kind of pulls like, well, I guess the end during Endgame, a lot of people would call it like kind of equivalent to Thanos. But she goes through the eye and pops it out and kills the guy. But then afterwards, she attempts something similar with a giant, the giant member of the Lizard League. And you'd imagine, like, hey, she doesn't say small, and if memory serves, she does not have the. It's more like the Atom. She does not have the ability to grow a giant like Ant Man. Like she can't turn the Giant Man. She just returned to a regular size, which I think was the undoing here.
it'd be sad you just like cut open the person and their mains are just battered and stomach
Oh,
acid.
yeah.
Well, looks like a mystery meat right there.
Oh God, Rohit, that's not right.
Uh, that,
It's seriously, it is
that's
horrifying. The
that's
idea that we've had this set up all. Okay, have someone who grows to a giant size or returns to size, and the other, and when they were small, that's usually going to undo the person. We've seen this kind of thing in the boys, even, but not. But seeing it unsuccessful, I've never in a million years thought of, and only Kirkman has the sick, depraved genius mind to do that. Like, oh God, and
yeah.
just seeing like half of it bulged out and like seeing like the guy's body bulged out from like the attempt. Oh God, and then him saying yummy is like the most bone chilling thing I've seen in Invincible. This might hold the record. A lot of people would say the train was big, but this might be more horrifying. I don't know.
You know what was bone chilling for him? That he
Oh,
didn't bite us thoroughly before bite and chew us thoroughly before swallowing.
for
Remember,
a moment I thought they were going to go there for a moment, but then the whole Rex seemed rather confident.
it should have been a thing where like a piece of shrinking ray just stuck to his teeth.
Oh
So he has to get like a toothpick or use his tongue to like take the last piece out. That's relatable to us, right?
God, you're a sick man, Dar.
Deep down, you like that dragon. Deep down.
No, fighting the urge to throw up right now.
Would they throw up Shrinking Ray if she's in you?
Anyway,
R.I.P. Shrinking Ray.
God. That poor girl. Seriously, she was a good character. She was an underrated character too. I kind of liked it when. Seriously, no, I liked it when she showed up. Because it's like, oh yeah, it's Shrinking Ray. And I love how in this episode, even the brief time she did have, you sound like a consummate like New York. You sound like someone from the Bronx or like or something.
Dragon.
Yancey Street.
Dragon. Would you say she ate it up?
Sure.
I guess that one is gonna take a little while to digest.
Rohith, that's in bad taste.
You know what wasn't in bad taste? Shrinking Ray.
Rohit, a girl is dead, and you're just making light of it. She died trying to save us all from nuclear Armageddon. And you're just making light of her sacrifice. You're just this is all just a joke to you, isn't it?
Well, we live in
This
a
poor
society.
girl. Yeah.
Anyway,
Anyway, I apologize for my monstrous co-host here, folks. But I mean, it's just unmitigated, just so many bad things over here. Anywho, but I do love it's interesting though. We ended that on a cliffhanger as well. Rex has like a gun on him, drawn by the leader, who has a really good point though about the whole. I just wait till the other guy gets tired out before you kill him.
yeah, and man, Rex's desperation. Oh my god, he went from being superhero to being like scared out of his mind. Like I think Rex's reaction is probably the most human reaction I've seen on Invincible's like, oh shit, and just throwing it. It's like, yeah, Rex feels like he's gonna about to die, but
Yeah,
like,
I love the panic on it. That was such well animated panic.
yeah.
It's just so messy and it's just like it's like firing. It's the fight or flight thing just captured in animation perfectly. He is running for his life right now and just throwing whatever he can. I like he basically cuts one of them in two just purely by accident, just by sheer dumb luck.
Yeah, and he loses his hand in the process.
God, yeah, that's. Now, what do you think? You think they're going to use science like to regrow the hand, or do you think he's going to have a robot hand?
Hmm.
The robot hand is kind of a Star Wars reference. They do, but then again, we've kind of reanimated like people a little bit through Invincible, so I don't know if they can regrow that.
I will say Rex will not be in character if before he gets his new hand, he doesn't make a masturbation joke about it.
Well, he's just going to remove the stump.
No, he uses other hand. What are you talking about, Dragon?
No, I mean like is this the gag that he's like motioning the arm like can I get a little help here? Otherwise, this is going to be difficult.
Dragon, what are you saying?
I
You
think I was
call me
pretty clear with
monster.
what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's lacking a hand to do the gesture with. So he is using the arm
What is
from
the
the
gesture?
wrist
What is
down.
the gesture? Please describe for the visually impaired the gesture that
Well, why
Rex.
don't you do it? You're profiting off the blind. Why don't you do it?
What do you mean profiting off the blind?
I've seen your avatar.
The avatar is the appreciation of a character. I do not necessarily am said
You're
character.
appropriating blindness. You describe it to the seeing impaired.
And you're appropriating like shadows. I see your avatar,
I tell
Dragon.
you what, let me. No, never mind.
God. Anyway, I think Rex is kind of just like on his knees, and with the lizard league leader just pointing a gun at him, he's like, "Just fucking do it." It's like, oh man, Rex has accepted his fate, and it just ends, and it's like, oh man, I'm excited for
Now
the next episode.
he's not gonna die. It's the question of how the heck is he gonna be saved?
He's gonna throw it at the leader's nuts.
Oh, That's what you think's gonna happen?
I mean, that's a very Rex thing to do.
I mean, it is, but I don't know, huh? I don't know.
Yeah, he's on the ground. Like you can turn around and
I
see
mean,
him
he is, but it seems like he's at. I don't. I guess he's not out of ammo. He looked for a moment like he was out of ammo, but I guess he's not.
or maybe punch him in the dick. You know, like just go below the belt. He's a super
Yeah.
villain. You don't have to
Well,
be honorable to
yeah,
him.
you could probably punch him with his stump. I guess
Why are you focused on the stump?
because it's horrifying, Rohit. That's why it's very disturbing, and I hope he's going to have a robot hand or their genetically regrown, regenerated hand or something.
What if he just like scoops up the remains of Shrinking Ray with his stump?
Oh, see now that come on.
Just have it just have it like kind of be painted on the top of the stump. It's sort of like a little bit of a tattoo, but not
Don't make me. You want me to really turn this dark?
sure.
I don't know. I don't know if the audience can.
Do it. There's no audience here. It's just you and me, Dragon. Come on,
Wait,
say it. Say
wait,
it.
way to insult our viewers, by the way. uh, if they were to pull a revival or a cloning of Ray, of shrinking Ray, the DNA might be a little combined with Rex. So we bring back Rex and Ray's love child essentially. It's like the clone from the
Maybe
remains of what's
maybe
left in the camp.
maybe.
Also, a little bit of the giant lizard league guy. So there's kind of there's
So does Rudy have a new sister or what?
that's the question. I think technically there's a deranged family
What
there.
what if Rex finds her attractive? Like what do we do there?
Wait, if Rex finds her attractive?
I don't know. Would it be just fully
No,
grown?
I'm saying, do you
Like,
mean Rex or Rudy? That's what I'm asking. Like, do you mean Rex or?
oh, okay. Oh, it'd be like to like the young child. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm. That's the thing. I mean, if you mean Rex, well, there's that too. I mean, how rapidly do they grow this kid? Plus, I mean, there's ethically like, I mean, the kid's like a newborn, but then again, so Rudy is kind of reconstituted though, but it's the quado brain in like a teenage body.
Dang.
So a lot of sick, twisted dilemmas there. But again, they're not going to do that, so we're all good.
Well,
No therapy for us. Maybe for Rohit, but we're going to talk about that now.
you got to hand it to them. They really stuck it to. They really stick to the guns to Rex, kind of being at the end of his rope.
Let's put a rush on that therapy for Rohit. Okay. So post credit.
I was surprised with Alan coming back. It's like, what? Did someone just intervene and save his life? And it's like, oh,
I was impressed with the years. I completely forgot. Again, I completely forgot about. I knew Alan was going to survive. I didn't know how he was going to survive, but I was completely surprised by the whole Thetis not being a traitor, and instead, he did the life support thing was a fake out. He wasn't the one. Now that does make me wonder who did turn, and I wonder if it's the Tatiana Maslany character. I wonder if she turned on him. But then again, she didn't know until that diner. He was about to tell her at the diner, so I don't know. So I don't think it is her actually. I don't know. We just don't know who like tipped off the Viltrumites. But regardless, this guy Theus, not a traitor, turned off the life support to give him a fighting chance. Kind of like he's either his body's gonna reconstitute itself in like a kind of like a almost like a evolve or die kind of moment.
like Doomsday.
Yeah, I mean pretty much. I mean it's kind of. I don't know. It's more of a. I think it's more of like it's like it's the old adage of like if you turn off the life support, there is the very faintest, slimmest chance that the person will survive, but it's like basically it's an up to them sort of thing. I think is what they're
Where
going
have you
for.
heard that happen?
Well, no, I'm saying it's like
Have you
there's.
done experiments to verify this? I
Well,
hope.
no, but I mean that is the every time that happens though you do have the thing where they say, well, it's up to them now. Where I mean the weird medical advice is like, well, I mean there's a chance they could wake up, but really how is that? It's like the machine, it's up to them now, sort of thing, where they have to turn off like the respirator and stuff, where it's up to them to come back.
For the audience that's out there, please consult the doctor before taking on this idea suggested by our co-host.
I didn't suggest it's an actual thing. That's what they say. They say we have to turn off. They eventually when they pull the plug, they turn off the machine or whatnot. Then it's up to them. Like there is a very slimmest, nigh impossible chance that it'll that the person will regain consciousness or like be able to still breathe on their own. But that's essentially what happens. Mm. I mean, that's at least what they're told. That's what they're. I guess they've been prompted to tell everyone to probably give them false hope. But that's essentially it. I mean, there is somewhat of a medical basis there. I just don't know. I don't think it's ever actually worked. But only in comic books apparently can it work.
Comic books, the source of medical information.
I'm saying Kirkman's just the one saying that it worked. I'm not saying it ever has worked historically. I don't know. You have to imagine at least one time it's worked. Otherwise, where do we get the saying from? But it's probably more like a odd circumstance thing. Okay, look, we're not medical doctors here, so we don't really need to overanalyze the semantics of how this happens. The point being, a gamble was taken on Alan's life. Anyway, it paid off. He woke up and now he's jacked. Now he's ripped.
He is. We call him Swollen, the alien.
Really, Swollen? That's
Swollen.
Swollen.
Or Alan the Shredded, or like Alan or Ripped Alan,
Okay.
Or Rip Alley, Alan the Swollen, yes, Jacob,
see,
yes.
Okay, see, at least that's better than anything you came up with.
God.
It is really Alan the Swollen. You said it yourself, Alan the Swollen. That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that all the other ones sucked.
Yeah, no, I'd say they weren't great.
Okay,
they weren't great.
Man,
it's okay. They're not always going to be great.
God, chewing me up like I'm shrinking Ray right now.
Like that. That's not great either. But
Well, I'm still not digestible.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Dragon. Which people do you talk to? Are these the people that you get your anti-Ben Schwartz opinions from?
Those are all wholly original, my friend.
God, I'd rather meet your other people than have this anti-Ben Schwartz bias.
Anyway. So, point being, Alan now seemingly has a fighting chance going up against the Viltrumites, which is, thank goodness, because, he, as he points out, his eye was literally punched out of his socket. Like, poor Alan, he really went through it last time. He's lucky to be alive, but now, seemingly, he has a fighting chance, and we reveal Thalos. He rips off the beard, which is a great reveal, by the way. It sounds silly, and he just rips off the beard. He can't just tell him he's a Viltrumite. He rips it off, still a mustache. Like, you're a Viltrumite. It's out of context, it's laughably absurd, but in context, it's awesome.
He didn't take off his robe and showed his ripped body or whatever, or lift something heavy or floated. He just nope.
He just needs to tell him, isn't it? Why does he have to show him? He can just I'm a Viltrumite. You're a Viltrumite? Yes.
True, but
maybe he can lift stuff. It'd be cool if he lifted something, so he doesn't have to. Animation costs money, Rohith.
I don't think it's that expensive to just show someone lifting a heavy object.
Oh, right. I'm sorry. Where's your RISD degree, Rohith?
It's in the process.
Yeah. Okay. But so he was the only before Mark Grayson. He was the only Viltrumite to rebel. Now he's got a fighting chance with Mark Grayson. So Alan, Invincible, and Thalos. They're gonna team up, stop the Viltrumites, but we got to get to him first. So Alan's got a mission. He's back. He's got a mission. Alan is on the rebound, baby.
Thalos has to see Mark and tell him about the Allspark. Oh wait, wrong franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thalos is going to tell Alan, it's Autobots roll out. It's what are the Autobots you speak of? Thalos, it's I was thinking of something else. Alan, like Seth Rogen, Alan's just like, why am I hearing this '80s song? And it's like, you got the touch, you got the power. Just playing in the background.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, that's the episode. I think we got through it. But yeah, I mean, you feeling good about second half?
It's off to a great start. It's probably one of the better episodes, not just this season, but of the show so far. So, I'm hoping we get to really, I can see the next episode kind of be more of a quieter episode, just kind of wrapping up, the sort of the high intensity of this episode. And I'm really curious to how this wraps up because we haven't seen. I assume the next episode will get back to the multiverse stuff, assuming that isn't resolved in the second season.
I mean, we do have kind of a cliffhanger, so I don't know if we're going to really a quiet episode. Like, we still have, like, the Sequids attack in space, and we have the whole, what the heck happens to Rex explode, so, you know.
Sure, I don't think I could imagine that would take about half of the next week's
Yeah,
episode.
I mean, I think you're right, but then after that, I don't know if Alan's going to show up immediately or we're going to wait till 3 for Alan to show up, which would be odd if, like, here's the thing, it's going to be weird if we do, like, if we have Alan show up in, like, episode 7, just given the fact, like, the first half is, like, Alan shows up in episode 3, and now he's showing up in, like, the other kind of third episode of the batch.
Well, like there's also Angstrom Levy, so like all those plotlines have to kind of converge into one, or if one of them is going to be just like,
No, they do. I'm just saying it's just kind of like we're really kind of Plus, here's the thing: if Alan shows up in 3 and then Nolan shows up in 4, of this half, it's just man, we're really just kind of like you were mirroring that first half a lot.
oh, that's a good point.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if it's like if like Alan shows up in 3 and at the end maybe we show like a Nolan's on trial or he's on Vision. We're like, hey, Mark, we're heading to Viltrum. Yeah, okay. And then like, okay, we're on Viltrum. We're doing all that stuff. It's like, okay, well, but that's the big. But really, I don't think we're going to Viltrum. Honestly, I think the main thing we're gonna do is I think you're right. It feels like we got to pay off our multiverse thing. That's got to be where our finale is for this season,
Yeah,
right?
I'm waiting. Yeah, I want to hear. I want to hear the great voice of Sterling K. Brown, just like going insane at Mark for all of his past variants, because I think that will especially tie in with sort of the self perception that Mark has of
I can never wear hats again, thanks to you.
I am basically.
I'm so angry with you.
Fans think it's Levy or Levi. Make up your mind, Kirkman.
I wasn't in Shazam.
Well, yeah, I'm confused by that.
No, the whole like Zach Levi, Levi.
Oh, okay. All right. I feel if you're saying I wasn't in Green Lantern, that would have been a more apt.
Well, I mean, you're right in terms of like the visual comparison. Yeah, I just meant like the name thing, but okay.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong. It's he's not. No. I just look like that guy. I look like the leader. I look like combat. I look like the love child of the leader, Hector Hammond. I think it was Hector Hammond. I think that's what the guy. I'm pretty sure it was.
That's Hector Hammond. Yes.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy. All right. Yes.
Well, now more than usual.
Well, true. Anyway, so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the next part. We gotta resolve some of these cliffhangers, but yeah, we're probably building something big, and I think we're getting it right. Oh, one last thing I got to talk about before we go though, Donald's nightmare.
Yeah, that was intense. That was like some Terminator shit right there.
Yeah, I love that reflection shot with the eyeballs in Donald's glasses.
Oh yeah.
Such a great visual idea. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, I want to thank the folks that tuned in, at least initially. Code Geass Anime Fan, you had Jacob helping us along in the comments. And yeah, so I want to thank you, folks. Again, we'll be back talking about the next 3 episodes as they air, and possibly a different guest each installment. But we'll see what happens. Regardless, Thanks for tuning in. See you next time, folks.
Shrink and raise on the menu.